Hi, Katie. It's Catherine's mom again, and now we're going on to Chapter 3 of The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing. Chapter 3 is called Going, Going, Gone. Moments later, Dale and I skidded into our seats beneath the auction tent. I was not scared, Dale said again. I just hate being late is all. Stop panting and look professional, I said, wincing at the catch at my side. On stage, Buddha Jackson wiggled out of his shiny suit jacket and pointed to a battered desk and chair. Lot number 6, he shouted, and launched into a wild chant. And this is what auctioneers do. They do a sort of chant to get people to bid. Lot number 6, he shouted and launched into a wild chant. Who will give me $200? Two. Who will give me $200? Silence. 150. 150. We stared at him blank as stones. All right, Tupelo Landing, make me an offer. $25, Attila's mother said. Attila sat beside her, calm as pond scum. If it wasn't her at the end, then who? I have 25. Who will give me 30? There, Buddha said, pointing to the azalea women. I have 30 over there. Who will give me 50? The flow of the chant, the pulse of the bid, the auction swept over me like a dizzy tide. Hey, Dale said, breaking the spell. There's Thess. I looked across the crowd. Red-headed Thessalonian and his dad, Reverend Thompson, had miraculously found seats behind the azalea women. Thess! Dale hissed, waving. Over here! I got $50 over here, Buddha shouted, pointing at Dale. No! Dale clamped his hands over his mouth and his blue eyes filled with tears. I was just saying, hey, wailed between his fingers. Who will give me 100? Buddha boomed. Please, Dale whispered, somebody bid. I'll sing in church every Sunday till Judgment Day. He grabbed my arm. Mo, bid! I jerked my arm free. Going once, Buddha cried, pointing in our direction. Hide, I said, and threaded my way to the azalea women, who sat neat as a choir on the third row. That's an out-of-towner bidding against you, I said. She says keep your money for azaleas because yours are the tackiest she's ever seen. The azalea women gasped. 3 hands shot into the air. 100 in the third row, Buddha crowed as I raced for the exit. Come on, Dale, I said, dragging him toward sunlight. Dale had turned a throw-up shade of green. He leaned forward, putting his hands on his knees. I ain't never going into an auction tent again, not even if somebody's life depends on it, he panted. Well, maybe if Mama's life depended on it, I would. Or Lavender's. He looked up at me. They're family. Of course, we're best friends. That's almost family. Take deep breaths, I said to him. I looked up. Harm Crenshaw slouched against a tree, a crooked smirk on his pale face. Of course, it must have been him at the end. He had opportunity. We'd seen him on the path. And motive. He's a proven jerk. Dale, can you stand up, I asked. People are staring. Harm cradled his arms like he was rocking a baby and kissed the air. Come on, Dale, I said, glaring at Harm. Let's get something to drink. 2 Pepsis later, Dale's color found his face. Buddha's voice wafted from the tent to the refreshment cart. Sold to number 72. Miss Lana, you got your umbrella stand. Miss Lana exited the tent, lugging her trophy. We ran to her as Ratface scuttled by. If you ask me, they should sell all this junk in one lot, Ratface told Miss Lana. But when you go to a hick auction, this is what you get. Hicks. Miss Lana's eyebrows rose unnaturally high on her forehead. Dale and me took a big step back. And what's that auctioneer's name? Ratface continued. Buddha Jackson. Can you believe it? If I'm not mistaken, Buddha's a family name, Miss Lana said, her voice like shaved from ice. It was quasi-true. Bubba is a family name. Buddha's mom is dyslexic. Ratface narrowed her eyes. Nice spot for condos, though. I'll wait, she said, and scurried away. Dreadful woman, Miss Lana said, watching her burrow back into the crowd. Mo, would you and Dale put our umbrella stand in the Buick? Hurry, sugar. We have what we came for, but you don't want to miss the main event. We made it back just in time. As we edged into the front of the tent, Dale took off his belt and handed it to me. If I bid, strangle me, he whispered. Mama will understand. Here we go, Buddha Jackson said, rubbing his hands together. The inn with the furniture that's left, plus the medicinal springs, the pavilion, and all the fine print. Who will give me $500,000? Nobody breathed. 400,000? We sat still as tombstones. Make me an offer, he said. Mr. Red Baker scratched his sandpapery face. $20,000, he rasped as Flick Cranshaw stepped up beside him. 40,000, Ratface replied, studying her fingernails. Who will give me 50, Buddha sang. Mr. Red cracked his knuckles and nodded. 50,000, says Mr. Red, Buddha said. Now who will give me 60, Ratface said, her voice like a steel trap. 70. 100,000. The crowd murmured like pines in a breeze. 120, Mr. Red said. 150,000, Ratface called. Mr. Baker, Buddha said, it's up to you. Mr. Red shook his head. Going once, Buddha said, pointing to Ratface. Going twice. 160,000, a familiar voice sang out from the back of the tent. The crowd swiveled. A white parasol popped open. No! I tore across the tent. Miss Lana, I cried, grabbing her parasol and popping it closed. We don't have that kind of money. I will not have that horrible woman for a neighbor, she said. And we won't have her replacing our history with condos, Grandmother Miss Lacey said, seething. 180,000, Ratface said, crisp as a poisoned apple. Dale lurched to a stop beside me. Stop, Miss Lana. That inn's haunted sure as I'm breathing. Pish, she replied. She looked at Grandmother Miss Lacey, who nodded. Don't worry, my dears. We'll sell the inn to somebody nice, she said. The worry melted from Dale's face, just like that. $200,000, Miss Lana cried. Ratface jumped up, her thin face twitching. 210. Miss Lana, that's her top bid, Dale said. We heard her say so in the inn. He reached in his pocket. I got a 5. It's yours if you want it. And Mo has a life savings of $7.26, he said, plus a Canada dime. My little hero, she said, patting his face. We bid $12.26 more than she does, Miss Lana screeched, pointing at Ratface, plus a Canada dime. Sold to number 72, Buddha Jackson shouted. Miss Lana, you just bought yourself a historic inn with a bona fide ghost in the fine print. And that's the end of chapter 3.